Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of the Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Past guests on our show have included Philip Hecker, CEO of Bento Engine, who helps advisors give better advice to more families. On this episode, I'm speaking with Cody Foster, co-founder of Advisors Excel, which helps good advisors become great business owners. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms automation. When the last step to earning your client's business requires filling out paperwork, don't ruin your relationship with a bad experience. Instead, get Quick Forms to make filling out forms a great experience and the easiest part of your transaction. Visit quickforms.com to get started. Now, before I introduce today's guest, I want to give a big thank you to Billy Fixon, the COO of Madison Avenue Securities, for introducing me to Cody. Now, I'd like to introduce Cody Foster, again, co-founder of Advisors Excel, and their mission is to help independent financial advisors become great business owners. Since founding in 2005, they have grown from the 3 founders to over 800 employees today, making them one of the largest employers in Topeka, Kansas. Advisors Excel has been named a great place to work for 4 straight years, and in 2021, they were listed as number 23 on Fortune's best workplaces in financial services. Cody has been featured in multiple publications, most notably Success Magazine, Darren Hardy's best-selling book, The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, and Tony Robbins' #1 New York Times bestseller, Money, Master the Game. Cody also founded AIM Strategies, a company that brings a passion and knowledge for entrepreneurship, real estate, and community development to assist people and their businesses to succeed and grow. AIM Strategies has played a critical role in the redevelopment efforts of downtown Topeka, Kansas, by constructing the Cyrus Hotel, the Pennant Restaurant, and Iron Rail Brewing. Cody has been married for 21 years to his lovely wife, Jennifer, and they are the proud parents of 2 teenagers, Dylan and Ella. Cody, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Rich, thanks for having me. I'm excited to do this. I always love getting to talk about this topic specifically.
Well, it's an honor to have you. And if you haven't heard this podcast before, I talk with business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. Cody, you're a great entrepreneur. You've been through a lot of things, but I really want to understand your business today a little bit better. How does your company help people?
So I'll try and give you the quick answer, right? It's always hard to explain sometimes what your business does, but we actually have a very simple business model and just celebrating our 18-year anniversary. So February 1st of 2005 is when we started the company. So don't know exactly when we'll air, but just had our 18-year anniversary. We support independent financial advisors all across the country. So we're the middleman or wholesaler between the advisor and the insurance and investment companies that they access products for their clients. So our job is to be, kind of a de facto support system, back office partner for those advisors to help them find the best product solutions for their clients. I would say a lot goes into that. It's probably a lot more complex than just providing products for them to be able to use with their clients. But at our foundation, that is what our core business is. We support about 500 independent advisors across the country. Do a lot of annuity business. We have our own registered investment advisory firm and broker dealer also to support them.
Man, it sounds complex. There's actually multiple customers in there, right? So who is your main customer that you think about?
Our customer, without question, is the independent financial advisor. But by extension of that, and one of the things that we talk to our team all the time about is we are an extension of that advisor's office. So you were talking about even, with what Quick Forms does, like filling out paperwork, that paperwork usually comes through our office and we're scrubbing, making sure everything's complete. If we mess something up, that does have an impact on the end customer, which would be that advisor's client that they're meeting with. So we talk all the time about the advisors are our customer, but by extension of that, very much so, their client becomes an extension of that service model. And then really, if you think about it, we also can't do anything we do without the insurance companies and investment companies that we work with. So there is a service component to them too. One of the things we talk a lot about, especially on our operations teams, is we want to be their best partner. We want to be the firm that they're like, we love doing business with Advisors Excel because everything comes in clean. They know their stuff. It's good business. So we've got multiple levels in there, but our primary focus is without question, like, how do we provide the best experience for the advisors that we're supporting?
Yeah, that's great. I don't know if you knew, but I was a financial advisor when I
Okay.
started Quick. And so I can understand the problems of how do I grow my own business as an advisor? How do I focus on what I do best, which is talking to my clients? And honestly, that's one of the reasons I started Quick, because I felt I can help more advisors help more people than I can independently.
Yeah.
So what made you want to start this business? What were you doing before this?
Well, before I'll tell you that, just to give Quick a big endorsement. So I literally yesterday I have an old annuity that I had set up years ago that it's not earning much. So I was going to roll it over into a new product, and they dropped off the paperwork. So I was like filling it out manually, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so painful. I mean, it took me like half an hour and I didn't know what I was doing. So I had to call some people in to help me get it filled out. So keep that up, because that is such a, when you talk about an experience and then something like that, it's painful. So, but let me back up. So my first job out of college was in this industry, working for an insurance marketing organization, was there for about 4 years. Just didn't really enjoy going to work every day. I enjoyed the industry and I liked financial services, just didn't necessarily enjoy my job. So David and I, my partner here at Advisors Excel, in 2004, we left to go be independent financial advisors. So we saw all these advisors that we thought were making a bunch of money, and it didn't seem like they really worked all that hard. And we're like, this seems like a great opportunity. So we left, went to be independent financial advisors. And I think what happened that first year, which is pretty core and foundational to everything that we've tried to do here at Advisors Excel, is we learned really quickly, like we knew the product stuff really well. We didn't know anything about running a business, so once we started, it was January of 04, like we learned really quickly, like we've got to know a lot more about how you actually run a business. So one of the things we talk, especially to our team here internally, one of the messages we try and preach is who we really support are small business owners whose business happens to be financial services. So there's, 20 to 30 things that you've got to do really, really well to build a great business around a financial advisory practice. And we want to be the partner that can really help support all those different things that they're trying to do.
Yeah, I've often had those discussions with advisors, but it's also true of doctors and other types of practitioners.
Every one of them.
They get so focused on the practice of their skill, they forget to be operators of their business. How is it that you help them become better operators? Do you take that work away from them, or what do you do?
I would say yes and no. So we have a mission. It's very clear. We say all the time, we want to help good advisors become great business owners so they can help people enjoy amazing retirements. And there are components of things that we can take away from them. We have a big operations team, right? That once they fill their business out, they send it to us. We're going to scrub it, make sure they got everything checked so there's no delays in it. But we don't fill the paperwork out for them. We have a huge technology team. We've custom built out, an instance of Salesforce that all our advisors can use, but we don't do their CRM for them. And we have a huge creative team. So we build their websites, all their collateral material, help them a lot with marketing. So we'll support those efforts. But one of the things we talk a lot about is we want them to build a great business, and we think there's a lot of value in them knowing how to do it. So we probably spend as much time on like, okay, we can support these efforts, but ultimately you have to build the team around you, because I think once you build a great team around you and you know how to lead a great team, it frees up, your life dramatically. And that's what a lot of advisors, I think even when they come to us, a lot of them probably do good production and put up good numbers, but their quality of life maybe isn't great because they're doing a lot of the work. So really teaching them how do you build a team and the systems and processes around you to kind of free up your time there. So I would say we support them really well. There's some things that we can do for them, but most of it, we're trying to teach them how to do it better than they're doing it now, how to be more efficient, how to automate stuff, to create kind of a better business quality of life also.
So that makes me think of just a curiosity question. Are you helping them with succession planning? how to sell their business or transition
So
to other juniors?
that's funny you should ask that. I would have said a couple years ago, not really all that much, but it's a trend that we're seeing start to pick up some pace here in the last few years, especially this past year. I think, I think COVID probably accelerated that for some. It's like, 60, 65, not sure I want to keep doing this, not sure I want to go through it. So we've done a lot more in the past probably 12 months, and actually are rolling out a new training event this year that's about succession planning. So that's going to be a big focus, I would say, over the next 5 years for us, is how do you do that well? And, we see a couple of things. You probably see this working with them too. A large majority that are working with us now are family succession. They've had kids that have come into the business. In fact, a lot of our top advisors today came into their parents' practice, and have taken it over. So that's a big one. Some are, they have, an associate advisor or two that they brought in that is kind of the plan to take over the business. But then some are just selling and getting out. Obviously, there's a lot of consolidation and kind of roll-ups going on in the space right now that we're seeing. And so we're seeing a little bit of that too. So trying to help them really think through, like, what do you want out of the business and what's the best path forward for that?
Yeah, no, that's great. When I started, I joined my mentor in his business. And the idea was within 5 years, I'd take over his business. And in year 2, I realized I don't understand his clients. I don't get along with them. It wasn't negative. It's just more like, I don't have kids like they had kids. I didn't put anybody through college. I'm not at retirement age.
Yeah.
And so it's a challenge of how do you do that with a junior planner who's coming up through the ranks?
Well, and the other challenge I'll tell you, just because I have a lot of these conversations with our top advisors as they're contemplating this, and this is more the advisor who's thinking about selling. A lot of them, as they get closer, they don't realize how much of their significance and their contribution is built into the business. So they think they want to do it, but then as that decision day gets closer and closer, they start to get some cold feet. So I've helped a few in the last year that have transitioned, and so much of it's almost like a therapist, trying to walk them through, like, it is going to be okay. And you have a great plan in place and a great team taking over, but it's a hard thing. Too, as you start and build a business, so much of your life and your identity is tied into that business, that the idea of walking away from something that's been such a huge part of your life becomes a big part of it. It's less financial and it's more emotional.
So how much of your own identity is part of Advisors Excel?
It's a big part. I wouldn't say it's my my driving identity by any means, but it's, we have 800 team members here in Topeka. So, I mean, there's a huge amount of responsibility that comes with stewarding the business well, because a lot of families are depending on us. But then, right, honestly, over 18 years, one of the things I don't know that I was really probably prepared for is just the life experiences that I would have with so many of our advisors. I say all the time, outside of 3 or 4 close friends here in Topeka, most of my best friends are the advisors that work with us. We vacation together, we've gone on trips together, we have all kinds of events that we host, that they're at together. So it's just from that, I think, standpoint of it, it's a big part of who I am, just because of the relationship side of it. But definitely try and make sure that, like, I would be okay if this whole thing went away tomorrow. I mean, it's easy for me to say now, because it hasn't. I would be fine with that. I'm comfortable with my identity not being completely tied up in this also, even though it's a big.
So let me ask from a different perspective. How did you define company culture? Because I find that leaders and entrepreneurs are the ones who really define it and grow it. How did you do that? It's got to be a big part of your business because you're a people business.
Yeah, it's probably where we focus. Let me rephrase it. Both of us, Dave and myself both. So Dave's co-founder here, spend a fair amount of time on it. But the way kind of our responsibilities are divided up, he takes all our product divisions and operations, report to him, and then anything that's a little more universal AE. So HR, employee initiatives, kind of our technology, our marketing, all report up to me. So I probably spend a little bit more time on the culture side of things, just because that kind of division that's in charge of it reports up to me. And I think it is, what I'll say is, when we started the company back in 2005, probably our first 10 or 15 hires were, I would say, friends or family, because nobody else would come work for us. Nobody else knew what we were doing. Yeah, it was kind of this startup. Nobody knew if we were going to make it or not. So we probably for the first 2-ish years didn't spend any time really thinking about culture, just because we were working with people we knew and trusted. And then as the company started to have some success and we started to grow and we had to hire outside of those networks, we woke up one day and I don't know if the culture was where we wanted it to be. So we had this kind of epiphany. And I know you mentioned Darren Hardy in the intro. I went to one of his, he had this training event I went to, and I remember him saying, he's like, every single person you hire has the potential to change your culture in good and bad ways, right? He's like, it's like a cancer cell jumping into your body, man. It can spread. And so just really got intentional about like, what type of culture do we want to build? What type of people do we want to have work here? And so that's been a big focus over the past, 15-ish years almost now, 14, 15 years, really focusing on the culture. So I would say some things that are important to us is we at our foundation, what I tell people all the time is like, we do a lot of fun things. Next week, we're taking our entire team and a +1 to Mexico. So we're taking about 1,500 people to Mexico for a week because we hit our stretch goal. And that's something we started when we had 30 employees, and we've just kept doing it every year if we hit our big goal. So we do these things that are really, really fun. But I said, I would hope if you talk to anyone here, the number one thing they would talk about would not be the fun things that we do, but that they believe that they're cared for as a person first and foremost. And I think foundational to our culture is we want people to feel respected and cared about. And we try and demonstrate that through, how we treat our people, how we lead our people, the benefits and things that we offer to the people. We do try and do some fun stuff too, but so that's kind of foundational. And then the other thing we talk about a lot is we want growth-minded people who are constantly trying to get better. And we are going to work really hard. Now, our opinion is we want to work really hard from 8 to 5, and then you be able to shut that off and go work really hard on other things that are important in your life. But while you're here, like, it's going to be busy. We've grown every year, God willingly. And so we hope to keep doing that, but it's busy when you're here. You're not sitting around with nothing to do. So we want people who are going to work hard and try and reward that also.
I saw on your website and some videos that one of the things that encapsulates what I think is your culture is always do the right thing. If I said that right, is that your viewpoint?
Yeah, it is. So it's ironically, when we started the company, and this was more the message we were sharing with advisors, that we wanted to build this company around these kind of 4 core principles. And it was the first one was less means more. So our approach when we started was we didn't want to recruit lots of advisors. We wanted to recruit really good advisors and surround them with more support. This in financial services for forever. It's been sign up as many people as you possibly can and hope some make it, right? And that just never made much sense to me. The company I worked at before, we spent all our time and money and energy and resources trying to convince an advisor who had just got licensed, who had never done anything, to go write business. And if someone was actually writing business, like, we left them alone. We're like, don't mess with them. Where we just said, like, why don't we go find those that have already shown they're pretty good and surround them with more support to where they could be great. So less means more. Surround ourselves with successful people is kind of the second conviction, which was really, we want to create learning rich environments where advisors can come together and learn from other advisors or other great business thought leaders. The third one was it's all about prospecting, and that has to evolve. This isn't the time you're an advisor. If you can get in front of enough new people, you're going to do okay, right? You can do the other things poorly as long as you have a new pipeline. But then the final one, and I think it's just going back to the question you asked me early on, we do have a little bit of responsibility to the end consumer of our advisors. And we try and preach this all the time to our team is it's not a form coming through. It's literally someone's life savings. Someone has worked for 30 or 40 years to accumulate this amount of wealth. And now they're making, back to, the identity thing, they're making one of the biggest decisions they're going to make in their life, which is to retire and step away. And they're trusting this advisor that they're putting a plan together that is going to make sure that their money's going to last. And I said, if we screw something up there, this is a very scary moment for them. It puts some doubt in their mind. So just really making sure that we're doing things the right way, that we take ownership of mistakes that we make, that we always think about how do we create the best experience.
This reminds me of one of my very first jobs when I was in college at Payne Weber in a stock brokerage. I watched them hire 28 newbies, and within the year, 2 were left because they fail out, right?
Yep.
And I also witnessed this I guess kind of innate process to promote products that were not always in the best interest of the client, but it would make the person a better commission. And when they're hungry, trying to feed their own family and making it, where do you win with that? Let me ask you a kind of different question. What is one of your favorite customer success stories? How did you take on some of these advisors that were good and convert them or transform them to great? What did that look like for them?
Well, here's how I would say it. I think it is constantly creating environments for them to learn from other people. I think that's the secret to what I say secret, like it's fairly well known. That's what we do. It shocks me more people don't do it. We host about 30 events a year. I would say 8 of those are kind of bigger, more significant events. 20 plus are kind of smaller. They'll have 20, 30 people in them. But constantly trying to bring other advisors and other thought leaders to the table for them to be able to learn from. And I think that's kind of foundational to it, right? Is like constantly growing, constantly learning. But, we're talking about succession. So I'll just share one of those stories. Chuck Lehman and Alicia Lewis joined us back in 2008. So, they've been with us for a long, long time now. Chuck had been in the industry forever, Prudential guy for a long time, and went independent. When they joined us, their firm was probably generating $150,000, maybe $200,000 a year in revenue. And Alicia's his daughter. She had just joined the firm. Plan was for her to come in and take over. But in a way, we're kind of struggling. And now they've been with us for a long, long time. Chuck's actually officially retired. Alicia's taken the business over. They're managing a couple $100 million in AUM. They're doing $20 to $25 million a year in annuity business every year. Like they've just transformed that business. Went from those 2 with 1 part-time employee to a team of 12, have just built this incredible business that allowed him to retire and step away, has created this legacy that she and her husband have stepped into and really continued to grow. But just watching the growth of them specifically, but the business is really, really cool. It's sometimes we probably don't pause enough to think about like those success stories, but it's this, it's not that they did any one thing. It's that they did a lot of small things really, really well, right? They marketed better. They started a radio show, built a team out around them. They've grown and developed as leaders and just built an incredible business that's to see what the legacy of that business is going to be long-term now is pretty phenomenal.
No wonder you can feel like you can walk away. I mean, that's amazing. It's amazing to see that kind of success. And you don't necessarily look at it year from year because it's incremental, right?
Yeah.
But looking back over 15 years, it's like, wow.
Well, the other thing I would say about that, and it goes back to maybe always do the right thing, but I believe that a advisor who's built a great business is going to do a better job taking care of their client also. Right. Yeah. And I'm not saying this about Chuck and Alicia, but my guess is when they joined us, they probably didn't talk to their clients a whole lot. It was probably a little bit more, didn't have the systems in place. Now, like the client events, the communication, the job that they're doing, helping their clients with their plan is so much better than it was. And so I think too, you kind of use the Payne Weber example. You could substitute that name for another 30 names in our industry, right? Of like, they bring these people in, they make them call their friends and family, try and sell them some crap. They fail out of the industry. Nobody ever follows up with them. Someone gets stuck with this, hodgepodge of stuff they own. They don't even know what it is. So, generally speaking too, I think the better they become as a business owner, the better experience the client gets too. And I think that's important.
Yeah, for sure. So being in this business for so long now, how have you changed as a result of your customers winning, or maybe your service and company has changed?
Well, it's obviously gotten bigger and more complex. That's a big part of it. I think probably the biggest thing is just, I would say, and I think most people would say I've probably grown and matured a lot as a leader. When we started the business, there were 3 of us who started the company together. and we kind of did everything, day-to-day stuff. We were recruiting advisors, we're helping, they'd call if they needed product help. We were kind of doing everything. And I was probably good at the job for those first few years, but not very good as a leader. So I think an intentional focus of trying to be the leader that can lead this organization today, which I wasn't, probably even 5 years ago. Leading 800 people is a lot different than leading 80 people. So that's probably the biggest thing, I think, is just having to constantly grow and develop as a leader. I think a part of that, as you would know, it's also being able to get good at hiring good people around you, and then delegating and being able to let go of some of those things. When you start a business, especially early on, you're so intimately involved in everything that's going on in the business that it can get, it's one of the things I see with a lot of our advisors. It's really hard for them to let go of some of those things that they've been doing forever. But for you to be able to grow and scale it, you've got to eventually get to that point. And that probably took a while. It's probably one of the hardest transitions I think any entrepreneur has to go through. But once you get on the other side of it, I try and tell our advisors, I can use our business as an example. They all think I'm really busy, and in some ways I am. I'd say a lot of times the weight and the responsibility is bigger. But from a day-to-day standpoint, like, my life's probably easier today than it's been at any point over the past 18 years. I have more freedom and flexibility within my day and calendar than I've ever had. And so that only happens by building a great team around you and trusting them to take on some of those responsibilities.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. All right, let's look to the future a little bit. I
Sure.
am just enamored with the artificial intelligence, and I'd like to get your perspective. How do you see artificial intelligence changing or impacting the customer experience? Yours, the clients, or anybody's? Just what's your future look like?
Yeah, it's obviously it's been a big topic in our company. I think it's a big topic in the, well, I wouldn't say the industry. I think everywhere right now. We're filming this not too long after Chat GPT has been the rage, and everyone's been talking about that. So here's a couple things I'll say, and you can even take this back, I think, a little to years ago when everyone was worried that robo advisors were going to put traditional financial advisors out of business. Generally speaking, one of the things I truly believe is that financial services tend to be sold, not bought. And I don't mean sold in a bad way. It's that all things being equal, people aren't out seeking like, oh, I want to go buy an annuity or buy an investment, So I think there's always going to be a huge need for great advisors that do a great job of educating and building plans for people. And I don't think that's going to change. What I think you're going to continue to see is, artificial intelligence, and that's a really broad definition, right? Can be used to automate a lot of stuff. So I think when you look at, investment management, that I think you're going to continue to see more and more of that will be, that will become more and more of a commodity of like building a portfolio can be, AI is going to be able to do that really, really well. Already is to some degree, right? Of building portfolios and doing some of that. So I think from an advisor standpoint, thinking about the things that you can do that artificial intelligence can't do is going to be really, really important. I love to have our advisors share these stories with our team, but I say that there's no robo advisor, there's no artificial intelligence, there's no investment, portfolio tool that can sit with a client when they lose their spouse, right? There's nobody that can sit and have that conversation with them and ensure that they're going to be okay. So I think it's going to give advisors that really add a human element, like a leg up, I think, on some of those. But there are things that I think, things that maybe used to take advisors a lot of time. We talk about quick forms, right? Like there's a lot of things with AI that should make the process so much easier and so much better. So whether that's investment management, whether that's paperwork, whether that's client communication, I think some of the cool things that I see and that I know we're playing around with is that how can you, through artificial intelligence, start to customize some of your messaging to your clients, talk to things that are important to them, where it's not you having to do it necessarily individually or one-on-one, but really being able to customize communication. I think some of the things that we're playing around with even right now, here in our organization, We help advisors do radio shows, TV shows. So we have a lot of copywriters. We write a lot of copy, a lot of scripting, starting to play around with some of the tools like a chat GPT on how can we automate some of that copy. So I think that is going to be a big part of where advisors can leverage that just from an education standpoint. Man, seeing some wild things, you've probably seen some of these. I know one of our advisors is testing it now where you go in, there's a company that you can go in and record. They give you about 30 different video scripts that you record, and then you can type up copy, and it records enough to where it's you like doing these videos, but you just type the copy, load it, and the AI literally produces this video that you like reading this script, so, and that's where, I think there's going to be this opportunity to do some things where the communication is going to be really, really cool, and then automate tasks that don't really need to be done manually. I think there's going to be a ton of efficiencies that can be created in it too. But I do think, and it's what I tell advisors, even when advisors were worried about robo-advisors, I'm like, there's a human element to this that's never going away, right? But I think it also, everything we're talking about, it puts such a premium on the experience that you create for clients. And if I were an advisor, our advisors do this really, really well. It's something we've been preaching, is like triple down on the client experience. And that's how you're going to separate yourself going forward. We say this all the time in our business, all things being equal, the business that provides the best experience will always win. And so really focusing on how do you create this incredible client experience that has a human element to it, and then look for artificial intelligence or any of these things, automation tools to take the task that maybe don't need to be done, as manually as they used to be.
As my COO likes to say, automate the left brain activities and stick with the right brain activities.
Great way to say it.
Yeah, no, I think that's super important. In fact, Gartner Group and Microsoft have both done studies that demonstrate if you improve your customer experience, you improve your revenue growth and your loyalty with customers.
Yep.
So you're speaking my language for sure. Cody, you said so many awesome things today, but I'd like to see if you could distill down into one key lesson or secret, given all your years doing this, that you might share with other business leaders for how they can win more customers. What would that secret be?
Well, I may have just said it. I fundamentally believe that all things being equal, business that provides the best experience will always win. One of the things that I guess I would maybe add to that is a message that we preach here is every interaction that we have with our clients, so our advisors, has the opportunity to add to or subtract from that experience that we're trying to create. And for us, neutral is a subtraction, right? So we don't want neutral interaction. So just thinking about like every kind of interaction, every touch point that you have with clients, and how can you make that the best experience possible for your client, whoever your client tends to be. I think it's a huge part of that. I think it's going to matter, maybe today more than it ever has before. I think that, the client experience, so many people have gone away from it, that doing that really, really well. And you're even seeing somewhat relevant, a few months ago over the holidays, like you see an iconic company like Southwest Airlines, who for decades has been recognized, it's the company that speakers would talk about when they talked about great client experience. And you saw them, just as they've slowly gone away from that entire thing just, collapse on them. I've got to imagine Herb Keller was just rolling over in his grave, seeing that. So, but it is, I think so many companies are going away from that for so many different reasons, that it can be the great kind of separator for a business, is how do you really focus on making sure all those interactions create a great experience for your client. So that would be one. I think, Rich, the other thing I tell everyone is just your company, the company can never outgrow the leader. And so I think that's the one thing I've learned over the last 18 years, is for our company to continue to grow, that Dave and I have to be, as the leaders of the company, the most committed to growth and development. So that's another big one. And I see it a lot with advisors when they come too, right? That the business may grow. If they don't grow as a leader of the business, it doesn't last very long.
Yeah. Great advice. Yeah, I really doubt that Herb ever wanted to be the butt of a joke on Saturday Night Live.
Oh man, it's we talk about client experience. A friend of mine who speaks in it, his name's Scott McCain. People should go read all his books. He's one of the best speakers I've seen, and we just had him at our event in January. That Billy was actually there, and he said he actually had to talk about it. He's like, I used to use Southwest as the example of great customer experience. Now I'm using them as the example of the opposite of that, and so yeah, it's wild to see. So.
Yeah, it really is. And this has been great. And before we wrap up, I do have one more question for you.
Sure.
But before I do that, what is the best way for people to connect with you?
Well, so I'm not on social media a lot. I think I have a LinkedIn profile. I very seldom go there. Advisorsexcel.com is our website, so you can probably get to me through there. I am on Twitter a little bit. I think it's Cody G Foster is the Twitter handle there. So once in a while on there. Most of the time, probably bragging on my kids or something. So I don't know if it's all that exciting. And then I think I did start a podcast probably 2 years ago. It's called The Business of Advice, where we interview a lot of great thought leaders in the business community, kind of talking about growing and scaling a business and client experience, leadership, all those things. So they could go listen to that too. It'd be a good place.
Yeah, I hope everybody does. Okay, so here's the last question. And you just mentioned somebody, so maybe I shouldn't even ask, but who is a leader? Who's a leader that you're following or being inspired by?
So right now it would be John Maxwell. So we've done some work with John the last few years here. I actually have kind of a mentoring program we launched with our advisors this year. So he spoke at an event for us in December and is doing some monthly coaching calls with our advisors. But I've been to a couple of John's events, leadership events over the past few years. And it's just I think as our business has gone through different phases, I would have answered that question differently depending upon what phase we're in. There was points where we were probably a lot more focused on sales or a lot more focused on marketing or client experience. But right now, I think with the role I'm in, like becoming the best leader I can possibly be is kind of the focus of where I've been spending some time over the last few years. And when I think about I've said this a lot even to our advisors, and part of the reason we've done a lot of stuff with John over the past few years, when I think about the type of person and the type of husband or father or just leader that I want to be, like he epitomizes that. Just, someone who's been doing it for 50 years at the highest level, who I've never met a person who says a bad thing about him, and just leads with such a high character, is very outspoken about his faith and how his faith plays a role in how he leads, and just to watch the people that he's developed. He is one I've got a chance to spend a fair amount of time with, but it's just been super influential for me over the past, few years because of the type of person that he is. So I want to be someone like that 50 years from now, I should share this. What's so inspiring about him, I met John about 10 years ago at an event and saw him speak, and he was really good. We had him speak about 2 years ago at one of our events, and he was so much better. And he's 75, 76 years old. So to still be that like committed to your own personal growth and development, 50 years into your career is pretty impressive to me.
Man, outstanding. I'm so glad I asked you this. I'm going to follow him.
Yeah, he's great. So.
All right. Well, I want to thank Cody, co-founder of Advisors Excel, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Please go check out Cody's website at advisorsexcel.com and be sure to check out Cody's podcast called Business of Advice for more. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we take the work out of paperwork. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion, and we'll click the like button, share this with someone, and even subscribe to our channel for future episodes of The Customer Wins. Cody, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, Rich, appreciate you taking the time to have me.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.